What's going on, everybody? It's TripleCrown24 back today with a new card show recap video. This one is for the Derby City Card Show down in Louisville, Kentucky. It is held at the Triple Crown Inn, which is always fun to set up at a show that has the same namesake as you, right? But in all seriousness, I really do enjoy the Triple Crown Inn as a venue for the show. It's spacious. The facility is just very clean in general. It's very accessible. It's not too far off the main roads as well down in the area. So it's a really ideal venue, I think, for a card show. And it's always a pleasure to make the trip down there. Incredibly well run show. So I was set up at this one. To give you my overall impressions of it, it wasn't the heaviest show in terms of foot traffic, and that is to be expected in July just because there's a lot of vacations coming up. There's a lot of people who are planning to attend the National, who are saving for the National, and just in general, the summer months tend to be a bit slower in the hobby. But for a July show, I thought this wasn't, too abnormal. It was definitely less attended than the previous show in March, but again, just different times in the calendar year. So I think it was fine, perfectly normal for a July show, and I did it pretty much what I was expecting to do for a July show as well. So overall, I thought it was good. And those who did show up were there to, make some moves or to buy, sell, and trade. So I thought it was a really great show. But let me go into the pickups. This will be very brief today. So I picked up 4 cards, 2 of which I'm not even going to show you because one of them was for Mike, baseball collector. It was a card that I sent him a picture of. He told me what he was willing to pay. Negotiated with the dealer. More on that in a minute. But I was able to secure the card for him. So he will be receiving that at the National. I'll let him talk about it then. The other card is one that he'll also be receiving, and he doesn't know it yet. But I picked up this card. It's not in great shape, but I got it at a really good price. And when he sees it, he's going to get a chuckle out of it because of the player it is. It's a player that, let's just say, brought his team a lot of success and brought my team a lot of pain and heartache. And based on that, if you know who we are a fan of respectively, you can pretty much put together 2 and 2 and figure out which player I'm referring to there. But Mike, if you're watching this, you have a bonus card coming your way. So let's move into the 2 cards that I did actually pick up. This was my first purchase, and really I was at my table for the vast majority of this show, despite there not being the most foot traffic. I did walk around a lot. There were some cards I was interested in. I didn't pull the trigger. It was a little bit too much than what I wanted to pay on some things. Like I was really close, but there were some big time cards that I was eyeing in the room. And I felt like if I went after something else that kind of took away some of the budget, that those other cards would have been off the table, so to speak. So I decided to hold out. And at the end, I was able to make a deal to get the last card I'll show you. But this was the one that I picked up that was, I thought, very reasonable, especially considering what a box of these goes for. 2020 Topps Chrome Black Refractor of Bo Bichette. I do like to go after the Chrome Black cards when I can, especially the numbered ones. And this was one of those where the dealer had a price. He told me, I told him what my offer would be, and he came back about halfway. So I'll just tell you, it was $50. I offered 40. He countered at 45. I told him, no, I'm good. I walked away. And it was one of those times where he came walking back to me. He came up to my table and said, I've changed my mind. I'll do it for 40 if you want to. And we made the deal from there. So I appreciate him, coming back to me and making the deal too. It's sometimes something you got to do at the shows. Nobody wants to blink, but sometimes to make the deals happen, somebody's got to give in. So I was happy. I thought it was a fair deal for both sides. So this one will be going off to PSA here. It is probably a 9. The corners on the back have a little touch of white on them, but that's what I'm aiming for here. Some of these I've seen come back in lower grades, so I'm hoping that there's nothing else that I missed looking this over, but will very gladly take a 9 on that card. And then the other one I picked up is a big boy. This one was a partial cash, partial trade And I was watching Bo 1 Million Cubs the other day, just going back through a video that he did a couple weeks back about the Madison Card Show, where he was explaining how on a box that he wanted to buy out, he had a number in mind where he was going to respond to the dealer's number based on kind of what his price range was for what he was willing to pay. And I thought I was like nodding my head along when he was saying that because I do the exact same thing. And that was the case on this card. Let me show the card just so there's not a blank screen here. It is the 2022 Topps Definitive Collection Gold Frame Autograph, red parallel 1 of 1 of the Ryan Express, Nolan Ryan. This is my second ever Nolan Ryan autograph I've ever owned. The first one was out of Topps Tribute. I actually bought a loose pack of Topps Tribute back in like 2016, 2017. I think it was 17 actually. And I saw that all the other packs were kind of duds because I got to see them all get open. So I bought the last one and had a Nolan Ryan autograph 25. So that one was definitely not a dud. But I saw this one, and let me just first off say that the dealer who had this needs to go play the lottery, because he had told me that they opened up a case of definitive at his shop, and the hits that he told me that came out of each box were pretty solid in terms of the main hits, and then the cards that he got that weren't even the best one in the box for each subsequent box were also really solid. Did he make his money back on the case? I don't know. I don't, some of those cards, maybe they go for more than what I was thinking they were going for, but he definitely got about as close as you possibly could if he didn't make his money back. So he did extremely well. And his shop also got in a case of Prism basketball on the same day, and all the boxes, but I believe one or two were purchased. He opened one of the boxes and pulled a redemption for a gold Prism Luka Doncic auto. So number to 10. So I mean, if he did lose out on the definitive, I'm pretty sure that Luka auto will probably more than make up for it. Plus the other stuff that he got out of the box. I think he got like all of the top base rookies there and capitalized on day one pricing for those. So he did exceptionally well. But all that aside, I approached him and I asked what his number was on the Nolan Ryan. And the number that he gave me was 600. And that was in my range of, I am not going to pay 600 for this. I probably wouldn't even be able to afford it if I did want it at that price. But I'm certainly going to try to at least make a trade or put something in towards a trade to get this card because I thought it was within reason of what I could get. So I asked him, like, I'm set up over here. If you get a few moments, because it was a team of guys there, if one of you wants to look at what I have, or I can bring it over to you. So they said that they would take a look, and they kind of got distracted by some customers coming up. No big deal, but I didn't hear from them. So I saw that they were packing up, and I really wanted to go after this card. So I came back around. I didn't even say anything. I was just looking again, and the guy said, "Dude, I'm so sorry. Let me take a look right now. You said you're still set up." So he came over, looked at my stuff, and saw my Josh Allen Zebra from 2020 Select. I had bought this card on Whatnot about 2 weeks ago. It's been asked about a lot, and I was into it for a little bit more than what some of the recent ones had sold for, which is a little bit. I was scratching my head a bit just because mine is the hobby version, which is much tougher to hit than the retail die cut version. But the retail ones have been outselling the hobby one lately. So it wasn't necessarily helping my sticker price on that card, but he was interested in it. And I thought, okay, here's my chance to kind of get out of this Josh Allen that I had purchased mainly as a trade chip to begin with and possibly kind of move into something a little bit different. So I made him an offer. I said, this is what my offer would be. He said, do you mind if I take the card back to the table? And so I waited a few minutes. I'm talking to another gentleman who was set up there as a dealer. And we were talking about some of the cards in my case. And the guy walks back over with this card in hand and my Josh Allen, which is a good sign. I'm thinking that he took my offer, but he comes back with a counter offer that's not too far off in terms of cash from what I had initially offered. We make the deal, and I think both parties were happy. I'm sure that, Josh Allen is one of the most asked about players right now. no matter where I go, from my experience on one side of the table or the other, a lot of people are looking for Josh Allen stuff. So I'm sure that they will have no problem moving that. And in turn, I was able to get into something that I really wanted myself. So I now own a Nolan Ryan 1/1 autograph. For the time being, it seems like every single time I make one of these videos, that card is sold within 24 hours. If that happens again, so be it. But I was very happy to get this card. It was definitely the highlight of the show for me. So let's go ahead and talk about the show floor in general. There was a little bit more vintage at this show than what I remember. There's typically like one or two raw vintage dealers, but there was some slabbed vintage dealers. Again, more on that in a minute. But I really felt that it was a well-balanced show. A lot of the sports were covered pretty well, and there was a lot of stuff that you just don't normally see typically at shows. I'm noticing more and more of that stuff, that people are kind of leaving the more easy to find cards at home, or they're just not putting them out. So you're quote unquote junk slabs, if you will. I don't see too many of those put out. But I do see stuff that you don't see, or I see a lot of value boxes. The value boxes are back with a vengeance. I put out 5 of them at the show this weekend in Louisville, and they were my biggest hit, which they always seem to be. So I thought that overall there was a little bit of something for everyone, regardless of what you liked and what your budget was, and that's always good for a show. You want everybody to feel like they have something that they can go after. That was at least my impression of it. So what was hot and what was not? Again, the value boxes seem to be doing very well. I saw a lot of people. Well, let me say this, is that I saw a lot of people going through them. I know that I did well with my value boxes. I don't know if people were completing the purchases or actually pulling out cards from them, but I saw a lot of people spending time at tables going through those boxes and making stacks, and dealers working with the customers on stacks, which is always cool to see as well. That I think that's always a good sign for a healthy show. So that was one of those that I really enjoyed, or one of those things that I really enjoyed seeing there. What wasn't so hot is, it's difficult to think off the top of my head, but basically the non-name brand players, I'll call them. I was trying to think of a way to word it, but I was asked a lot about my Yordan Alvarez stuff, which makes sense because he is one of the hottest players in baseball right now. The player I was asked about most by far and away, which was a little bit surprising to me because I don't really think that this is much of a baseball show. I feel that this is mostly a basketball show, or at least that's what a lot of people ask me about. But the most asked about player for me was Julio Rodriguez. No surprise, being that he is on a tear and appears to be bound for the All-Star game. I guess we will see here in due time. I don't know when the rosters are announced. It might actually be today when I'm recording this, but I'll figure that out here eventually. But that was he was a guy that people were asking a lot about. A lot of people were interested in Bobby Witt Jr. A lot of people were asking about O'Neal Cruz. So you're hot rookies in baseball. It makes sense. We're in the summer. Baseball is hot right now. But not a lot of love for Ronald Acuna Jr., not a lot of love for Fernando Tatis Jr., not a lot of love for Juan Soto. So kind of your young stars that, if you would have asked me who were the hot names 6 months ago, those guys would have been the answer. Very little interest in a lot of those guys. Among the 3, Soto was the one that seems to be the one that was most asked about, and then Acuna, and then Tatis. But there's definitely been a shift from kind of your young superstars to the rookies, or at least that was my impression at this show. So that was what was hot and what was not hot. Let me go to the takeaways to wrap up the show. As always, something I liked, something I didn't like, and something I liked to wrap it up. So something that I liked, I have to give a shout out here to a YouTuber who I'm on his channel right now, and he put out his first video 2 weeks ago. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. I'm not telling you to, smash that like button or smash that subscribe button, but at least go check out his content and give him a look. I watched one of his videos so far, and I'm really enjoying his presentation. and we talked about YouTube for a bit. I had overheard a conversation where I heard him bring up YouTube, and whenever someone says YouTube, my ears kind of perk up. But then he had told me in a conversation we were having about it, and told me about his channel. So I went ahead and looked it up, and I watched a video today in the morning while I had breakfast and started getting ready to leave for the show. And I enjoyed it a lot. So his channel's name is Huck's Sports Cards, and he's a vintage dealer. So if you are a fan of vintage cards, then I think that his channel is going to be right up your alley, and you're really going to enjoy speaking with him or interacting with him on his videos and checking out what he has to offer you. And I know that he did a vlog on this same show that I haven't watched yet, but I'm very curious to check it out and see how it kind of matches up right after I record this one, see what his impression was compared to me. So there you go. That was a positive and a fun interaction that I had. Something that I did not like at the show. I got to think about this one because there's nothing really that jumps out to me that I didn't necessarily like. I guess this is just one little pet peeve of mine, and this happens every single time I bring out the value boxes, but there was a couple sections that I know that were the more popular teams that people were looking at, that there were cards turned every which way. They were kind of just jammed back into the box, or I guess the bin, so to speak, because I use the VCW card bins when I take my value boxes to shows. And that's just a small pet peeve of mine as a dealer. Like, if you're going to go through a value box, just be respectful, even if it's a 10-cent card, 25-cent card, whatever the case is. It's still not your card until you buy it. And the dealers, a lot of them take like extreme time. Like, some of them alphabetize, some of them put them by player. I just stick to team just because usually they get messed up. So I don't want to spend too much time organizing them at the price point that I have the cards at. It just wouldn't make sense logistically. But just be respectful when you're going through value boxes. That's just one little pet peeve of mine, but that was that. Let's wrap up with something that I did like with the show. Again, I'm going to give a huge tip of the cap to the promoters. There's one that I talked to who always reaches out to me. He reminds me of when the show is, or he reaches out to see if I'm interested in tables. When I walk in the door right away, lets me know where I'm set up. They do a drawing for a free table every single show. So that's always, nice when you could possibly have your next table in the next 2 months given to you. So it makes the cost to get to the show a little bit more affordable too, and that's definitely welcomed in today's economy for sure. But just a really well-run show. He makes his rounds. Both the guys make their rounds and ask how things are going. They want to make sure it was a good show for you. They want to get a vibe of how the show's doing, and making sure that everyone who's involved with it is happy, and making it the best possible show. And I can tell you right now that not every single promoter does that. There are a lot of great promoters out there, and I would never talk bad about a promoter on my channel. It's just I think it would be unprofessional. But these two gentlemen, they do such a great job running this show, and you can tell that they really care and they're passionate about it, and it shows. And again, I cannot say enough good things about that. It makes me want to come back every single time. So that was it for my Derby City Card Show recap. Again, please go check out Huck's Sports Cards, that channel linked in the description down below, and give some of his videos a view. And if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to him as well. But until next time, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, be kind.